Okay, welcome to another video of Bowling with Coach Charlie. So, in today's video, I'm looking at a live stream of the National Youth Championships in Singapore. It's held at Rifle Range Road, and today I'm looking at the Under 18 Squad G. Actually, I've been paying attention to a few of the squads before this, and yeah, I've decided that well, since I'm watching, might as well record a video and talk about the bowlers that I see in there. So just so happened that this squad is very interesting to me because it has a lot of BIS or bowling in science students, which I've worked with previously. So I have 1 year of attachment in their COE program. Learning when I was a level 1 coach, learning from Coach Sandra, Coach Shireen, Coach Sandra and Coach Sandra mainly, alongside with Leon as well. Alongside with Coach Leon as well, who is one of the youngest level 2 coach in Singapore, I believe. So currently Coach Leon is serving his national service, so hopefully he comes back to coaching after his national service, but we can never know. But yeah, so I know some of the bowlers here. For example, this bowler that's bowling here, he's called Wiyap. So he's, I believe, secondary 4, so he's 16 this year. And Wiyap has grown a lot from the last year I've seen him. He has grown even taller and even lankier. That means his arms and legs are even longer than when I last seen him. And he always had this very queer style. Like, he has a little bit of an awkward style, but he is able to make it work. So just gonna comment on the bowlers as I see them. Okay, this bowler here, pretty good. The bowler in blue, is it John Farage, I believe. John Farage, pretty good. If you can look at another of his shots, he looks like he has very solid fundamentals. His balance arm was really straight, right? Balance arm really straight. His weight transfer was good as well. A little bit early. Okay, now his balance arm isn't as disciplined, so he let his balance arm drop. But John looks pretty good. He has that like on release, right? He has that flicking motion, which helps him to generate more breath rate and releases the ball faster. So when you release the ball faster, that means your fingers go around the ball faster and you generate more breath rate. So this is why power bowlers like to do that kind of flicking release, which is a very quick, fast release, which helps to generate more power. So if I now look at Wiyap as well, 2, 3, 5, yep. So in my opinion, Wiyap has improved since the last year I worked with him, but the way he's holding his ball is still a little bit too high as well. That means if it was up to me, if I was giving him advice and coaching him, I would advise him to actually hold his ball a little bit lower in the stance. Because from what I see, I think Wiyap holds the ball a little bit too high, like when he's holding his ball, right? And when he does his ball placement, he places it a little bit too high instead of holding the ball maybe lower. So what happens when you have a placement that when you place a ball too high, is that your arm swing, right? So imagine if this is from the side view, your arm swing goes like this, right? So it travels upwards before it goes down, right? So this upwards traveling movement takes time as well. So generally, ball placement that goes high and then swings back and down takes a little bit longer time as compared to, maybe I'll draw in yellow here, as maybe, okay, let's reverse. Let's have another example here. So as compared to an arm swing that is, okay, maybe not that way. Okay, how should I illustrate? Okay, instead, what I would suggest is holding the ball lower. That means instead of holding it like maybe that high, right? Hold the ball a bit lower in the stance. So when you do your ball placement, right, you are placing the ball, you should place the ball a little bit upwards in a small up motion. But when you place it lower, your arm swing instead goes faster into the downswing. So your ball goes faster into the downswing and your swing is more compact. That means you're taking, since your swing is more compact, your swing is taking less time, and when your swing takes less time, it is faster, right? And it's easier to keep up with fast feet. Because most two-handed bowlers, in order to generate that ball speed, we need their feet to go fast. But if you have a arm swing that takes too long, like this one in blue, right? If your arm swing takes too much time, then instead of going fast, your body is going to your feet is going to subconsciously slow down in order to match the timing of your slow arm swing. So for two-handers, it is actually quite important to have a compact arm swing that goes fast. I mean, other than that, if you are, or you can be another two-hander bowler who doesn't rely on your feet to generate ball speed, because we have other two-handers which uses their straight arm swing. That means they straighten their arm swing fully to generate the ball speed, which is also another possibility. Okay, so that's my comment from Yup. And the bowler who just bowled here, like this young boy here, he is Li Yang, if I remember him correctly. Yep, yeah. So I mean, I do like bowling in science shirts, but the way that they spell their names, right, in cursive handwriting, even though it's stylish, it's very difficult to recognize. So from the back, like, you can't really tell. Like, even if I go up close, right, sometimes I don't even know what their names are. I have to memorize their names. So Li Yang is, in my opinion, one of the most talented youngsters that I've worked with. He is, I believe, 12 this year, because last year when I worked with him, he was 11. He was like in P5, so I believe he's 12 this year. And you can see that he has grown. He's quite tall, right, for a 12-year-old, and he is pretty good. He has good ball speed, pretty relaxed swing as well, and releases the ball really fast. The ball goes fast as well. So in my opinion, one of the most talented youngsters I work with. And I believe the only reason that he's bowling in the under 18 category is that maybe in this tournament, I don't think there's under 15. Is there under 15? He definitely doesn't fit for under 12, because he already hits 12 this year. So maybe because of that, the coaches, I believe Coach Shireen, maybe asked him to bowl under 18, give him a challenge, because I mean, he's a pretty talented kid, right? Just give him a challenge, try and push him to bowl in a higher category. Okay, so we up bowls another shot. Yeah, so we up. In my opinion, you see that on his backswing, right? His backswing seems to slow down a little bit, because as he places the ball, right? Because he places the ball a little bit too high, so when he goes to his backswing, his feet has really reached the foul line. So he has to actually restrict his backswing from going back fully. He has to hold, his muscles have to hold on to the backswing, and then force the ball to come down. So we see another of his re-up spare shot here. Let's see if I can pause it. Okay. Oh yeah, I can pause this. This is YouTube. Yep. So at this moment when he's in the backswing, right, he's going into his swing. So his backswing, he isn't able to fully, like, to go on a very relaxed backswing, because he has to stop his swing this way. So he has to stop his swing here, because by this time he's already entering his slide. So he's entering his slide. The ball is actually supposed to be going down, but he has to hold on to the swing a little bit longer before he goes down. So in all, that's why his swing looks a little bit unnatural, because his body is asking him to hold on to the swing, because the timing is not fully in sync. Okay, and we can take a look at re-up on the right. No, that's not. It's not re-up. That is Ignatius. Okay, I have never worked with Ignatius before. Maybe he just joined the BIS COE program this year. Okay, looks pretty good, but he looks like a new two-handed bowler, because his momentum, right? His momentum is not there. If you can reverse a little bit. Okay, that's good. YouTube videos can reverse and rewind. So we look at Ignatius here. Yep. The way that he goes third, fourth, fifth, and you can see that his release is quite slow. His ball speed is pretty slow as well. So you can show that his timing he hasn't fully worked out his timing yet. It's probably new to the two-handed bowling. So unlike Li Yang at least has Li Yang is a bit special. He entered the program like last year or the year before, but he learns really fast. And I believe Wu Yap has at least been in the program for at least 3 years. But Ignatius probably a new bowler, so you can see that his momentum conservation isn't that good yet. Like his momentum doesn't flow that well, and that's a sign of a new bowler, or a bowler who is not that competent yet. So I want to look at Ignatius' timing. His timing is good, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the way that he lets his swing go, his a little bit too stiff. That means his arms, right, when he, let me reverse a little bit. Yeah, his arms, right. So what I suspect is that his arms are a little bit stiff. So he isn't fully relaxed on his arms and his shoulders. So he doesn't let his ball go into the swing fully. His ball placement also looks a little bit awkward. Like he's trying to move the ball out of the way of his body. He's trying to move the ball this way before letting the ball go down. And because of that, I think the swing takes up a little bit too. There's a little bit too much tension in his arm swing, so he doesn't look fully relaxed, and his arms look quite stiff, which also means that his arm swing and his release is also slow because there's tension in it. So rather than being, if you want your arm swing to be fast, the most important thing is that you need to be relaxed and let your arm swing flow. Let the ball carry your arms, so like what Coach Sandra used to teach me. Let the ball swing the arms rather than the arms swinging the ball, which sounds simple but actually very difficult to execute, right? Even until today, I haven't fully mastered it myself yet. Okay, so that is a sign that Ignatius is a little bit of a newer bowler. Okay, so maybe let's look at the other bowlers. Okay, we have lanes 11 to 14. Let's mute this and we'll just play a little bit of this. Let's click on live. Okay, so we have Coach Jareen. So a coach which I work with frequently, that's Coach Jareen here. Yep. Younger than me but very very experienced, has coached national bowlers before as well. So I believe he has been coaching for more than 10 years, even though he's pretty much younger than me. So I'm learning a lot from him. And let's see, so the bowlers we have here, let's look at, okay, we have this guy in black here. So this guy, which I believe based on the name is bowling, he is Ryan Tan, right? So Ryan Tan is not in the BIS program, but let's see whether Ryan can throw the next shot. I can observe him. Okay, so that is Oscar. We have, no, is it Ramos Lim or Oscar Ho? Okay, that's Oscar Ho. So Oscar Ho looks like he's a little bit awkward as well, a little bit of a new bowler here from BIS. Oh, this bowler looks good. Is this Dylan Lim? This is from NSRCC Academy, right? So I believe that's Dylan Lim. Yep, that's a strike. He looks good. He has a good basics. His swing is efficient. Okay, maybe we can reverse a little bit. Okay, let's reverse a little bit and pause it. Okay, so let's take a look at Dylan here, right? So Dylan is our bowler in the NSRCC shirt here. And let's okay, let's watch. Okay, let's play a little bit. Yep. So you can see that his momentum, he looks quite smooth, right? Okay, let's play again. Maybe I can mute it. 3, 4, 5. Okay. It's okay. Maybe I can let the sounds play. So when you look at Dylan's approach, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So the signs of a competent bowler is that when they move right in their approach, it looks as if it flows. Like there isn't any awkward start-stopping motion. So the lack of any awkward motion means that their approach is quite efficient. So their timing is efficient. The timing of their arm swing matches the timing of their footwork, and it looks as if everything flows properly. So you can see Dylan here looks good. So if we are commenting on Dylan's timing, Dylan has a little bit of an earlier timing. Let me try and catch it in the third step. Okay, so Dylan has a little bit of what we call earlier timing because he places his ball on the second step instead, the beginning of the second step instead of the end of the second step, like what I usually teach my bowlers. So because of that, now he's in the middle of the third step, right? So how we define early timing is that when you are in the middle of your third step, your ball, ideally, if you are in the traditional timing, your ball will be in between the gap, in between the legs here. So the ball will have been lower. That means sort of like earlier in the swing, right? It should have been lower. So if you have late timing, then maybe I can use it in blue. Your ball would be before your feet, so before your thighs. That means your swing would still be on the way down, so it hasn't gone on the way up yet. But in Dylan's case, right? So in Dylan's case, Dylan's arm swing is already on the way up. So his arm swing is already in the later stage while he is in the middle of his third step. So this to coaches, it indicates an earlier timing. So early timing generally in today's game not really recommended, especially for male bowlers, because as when you have an earlier timing, that means your arm swing reaches the top earlier. It also comes down earlier, so it's harder for the bowler to land their feet first before they how should I explain it? Okay, so ideally, how to get the power step in is that your feet, right, should land first. So imagine the red circle. So let's clear this, right? So imagine let me draw a red over here. So imagine if this is a feet. So the feet should land first before the ball comes down to the side of your feet. So your left feet, for a right-handed bowler, your left feet has to stop on the approach, stop right before the foul line first, before your ball reaches the left feet. So that's what we call delayed timing. So what delayed timing is good for is that it helps the bowler to generate power, because the bowler should feel more stable since their left feet is already has stopped moving on the approach. So the left feet is stable on the approach, and their ball is only yet coming down to the lowest part of the swing. So the bowler can have a little bit of motion. They can make their fingers go underneath the ball a little bit more and try and lift up on the ball with more power, because they're in a more stable position. So compared to what we describe as traditional or early timing, as when the ball reaches the most bottom of the swing, left feet is still moving. So when you're still moving, you're not able to generate as much power when you're trying to lift the ball. So generally, bowlers with early timing would struggle to generate power, because when they try to lift it, because their left feet is still moving, they will tend to lose balance. Okay, so in this case, let's see what Dylan here does to try and deal with the early timing. So he has a higher backswing, but his backswing goes above his head, right? So one of the common ways to so-called work with an early timing, to still have a delayed timing upon release, is to have your backswing go higher. So when your backswing goes higher, right, it takes more time before the ball comes down, because naturally higher backswing goes higher, it takes longer for it to come down. So when it takes longer for it to come down, it becomes slower, right? So you have more time for your feet to reach the foul line first. So in this case, let's see if his feet stops in the foul line. Kind of almost. If we play it like, can I go like just a little bit back? I don't know whether I can control. Okay, it's difficult to fine tune this actually. Yeah, it's quite difficult to fine tune this. So it has a bit higher backswing. Doesn't look like he has delayed timing. It looks like his feet, right, lands about the same time as when his ball reaches the lowest part of the swing. He releases his shot. Wah. Yeah, it's difficult to find between this. Yeah, looks like the moment that his feet reaches the approach, from my opinion, so I'm not 100% sure, like the moment his hand reaches the approach, the ball, right, was right beside him already. So in this case, when you release the ball, Dylan has traditional timing upon release, because the moment his left feet reach and stop, the ball reaches the bottom of the swing. So not really delayed timing, but Dylan still has other means to generate power. So one way he generates power is he has a very quick release. For example, let's see if we can reverse it by 5 seconds. Okay, we can. 2, 3. Yep, so it's a very quick release. You can see that twisting motion that he does, quick release and high follow through. So his follow through goes up above his head, right? So that high follow through and quick release helps his arms, helps his follow through to go a little bit faster and stronger. And because that faster and stronger follow through, it also helps him to generate the rev rate that he wants on the ball. So rather than just relying on that delayed timing, Dylan generates power by having a quick release and high follow through. Quick release, quick follow through, and also high follow through as well. So that helps him to generate more revs on the ball, as well as get a little bit more ball speed on the ball moving forward. So shot looks good. That's a strike. Well, very straight line. So probably the line that he took is not ideal, right? His ball like went pretty straight, like it didn't even curve much. Ideally, you want to send it to the break point a little bit around here, maybe around board 12 to board 10, and then have the ball go into the pocket here. You want a little bit of an arc for your ball to generate a little bit of a better entry angle. So not an ideal entry angle, but still pretty good bowler. His only drawback is during his so some of the good things. So this is a nice part. So upon going into his release, right, his balance arm is really straight. That's very good. Then after release, his balance arm drops, which is not that good. So ideally, it would be better for him if during release he could maintain his balance arm to be level, because that would actually help him to feel a little bit more stable at the foul line, and he can actually generate more revs, more power, and have even generate more power on the follow through and release. So you can see that Dylan likes to kick up his trailing leg here, which is a very common move for bowlers to make, especially if they are doing a lot on the release here. So if they are doing a lot, like they're doing this, Dylan is doing this flicking motion and trying to like force his follow through to go up, right? So he's doing a lot on the release, and because of the amount of force he uses on his release, he has to try and kick up his trailing leg in order to counterbalance the amount of force that's going on the right side of his body. So this is a very natural motion, which is okay. As you can see, more and more power bowlers, like two-handers, which we consider power bowlers, as well as one-handers, which try to generate more rev rate, right? You tend to see this kicking up of the trailing leg more often among these power bowlers. Okay, so let's go back to the live scene. Can I take a look at, let's take a look at our bowler in black here. So I believe this is Ryan Tan. Okay, so Ryan Tan looks to me like a decently experienced two-handed bowler. Like he has decent fundamentals. Let's look at it again. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so one thing which I don't like is that if you look at Ryan's right feet, right, his right feet is pointing this way. So even though that helps him to like open up his hips a little bit more, so what this does is it does help his right hip, right, to go a little bit further back, because he is positioning his right feet a little bit to open up, like he's opening up the angle of his right feet. So it helps for him to pull his right hip a little bit further. So this helps him to open space on the right side of his body for his arm swing to come through. But what we don't recommend is to have his right leg pointing to the side, because this makes his orientation a little bit weird. What we would prefer instead is, even though you have your right feet back a little bit, but you still have the toes of your right feet, right, pointing straight towards the target, because bowling is a very high precision sport. You need to be very accurate to hit a target that's like 60 feet away. So you have to be very precise. Your accuracy and your alignment must be very good. If not, it's very difficult for you to consistently hit a target. So this opening up of the right feet here is not ideal. It would be better if he points it straight. But keeping his right feet back is correct, but he should still point his right feet towards the pins and towards his intended target line. Other than that, he has this. Okay, he seems to have a little bit of early timing. Let me try and watch it again. Yep. So you can see Ryan here has early timing. So early timing, especially for a two-hander, whereby on the beginning of his second step, right, while his second step is moving, he's already moving the ball. That means he's placing his ball. So he's placing his ball early into the swing, and which means that his body has to compensate to try and delay the swing somewhat to make sure that his feet reaches the foul line first. Because when you have early timing, and if your ball reaches the bottom of the swing before your left feet reaches the foul line, you feel very unstable, especially when you need to generate a lot of power and lift on the ball. So this is why we always try and teach bowlers especially modern bowlers now, delayed timing, so that their left feet reaches the foul line first and they are fully stopped moving before the swing comes down right to the base of their left feet, so that they can apply power on the shot. If their left feet is still moving, like in this case, like in the case of Ryan, he's trying to do that by doing some compensation later on in his body system. So because Ryan now, if he lets his swing just go to a normal height, like here, if he just let his swing go to a normal height, he will feel like he doesn't have enough time to, he needs to he feel like the need to slow down his swing somewhat. Because if he doesn't slow down his swing is going to come down too fast, and it's going to feel like he doesn't have control of the ball. He cannot get leverage on the ball. So I think what Ryan does here is that he holds up his swing a little bit. Okay, let's try and take a look again. I think he holds up his swing a little bit. Yep. So you can see like the top. Has he reached it? Has Ryan reached his slide yet? Okay. So I think in the end he still gets traditional timing. Okay, I think he plants. So instead of sliding, right, what Ryan found that solution to him to so-called compensate for his early ball placement timing is that he doesn't slide at all. Because I don't really see Ryan sliding at all. Like instead, Ryan just plants his feet here so that his feet stops immediately on the approach. He's probably using a very tacky sole on his sliding on his bowling shoes, so that he doesn't slide at all. He plants his feet down, and because he plants his feet down, he doesn't get that sliding motion, so his conservation of momentum has fully stopped here. That means his momentum from moving has fully come to a standstill, and he is trying to use his arms to generate the ball speed instead. So can we reverse it? Yep, so he doesn't slide, and instead he tries to use his arms to generate the ball speed. So he's trying to use force to propel the ball forward using his strong arms. As you can see, Ryan is a pretty strong boy, tall, has muscular biceps. So he's trying to use his arm to try and power the ball ahead instead of using momentum. Yep. So you can see here on his backswing, right? Yep. On his backswing here, you can see him cranking up his muscles here. So I mean, it's difficult to see, but what I noticed is that it seems like his bicep and his arms, there's a lot of tension in it. So he's tensing up his bicep and his shoulders to try and swing the ball ahead with the pure power of his arms, rather than using the momentum of his moving body. So overall, this is not good. This is not advisable, because when you use the power of your arms to generate ball speed, right, there's a lot of tension in your arms, and it is difficult to be accurate and consistent if you have a lot of tension in your arms. Because when you have a lot of tension in your arms, right, our muscles, when they're very tense, they're designed to carry heavy load, but they're not designed to be precise. It's like, imagine like a weightlifter. When you're trying to lift a heavy weight, it doesn't matter that your weight moves up by 1 millimeter. They don't have to be precise about lifting it. All they need to do is just lift it up fully, correct? So muscles are designed for bursting motion of power. That means they don't have to be precise, but yeah, I mean, I hope you get my point. So while using a lot of tension in your arms to try and swing the ball, right, you have a lot of power, yes, but you only have power. You don't have precision, and you don't have accuracy. So when bowling is a sport of precision and accuracy and power, when you lose out on the precision and accuracy part, it's going to be very difficult to be consistent, difficult to hit your target consistently, and difficult to score very well. So what happens on his release here is that he fumbles it, right? So because he uses power, instantly he pulls the shot. So Ryan pulls the shot a little bit too far to the left, so he misses the intended target, and I don't know whether he spares this. Okay, he still spares this, but you can see him falling out of balance during his release because he tends to pull the shot a little bit to the left. So overall, not that recommended, right? Okay, so I believe if we go to live, maybe, yep, some of the bowlers have already been wrapping up. So let's see if I can see any other bowlers here. Okay, so you can see some female bowlers here. Okay, so we go to the live view. Okay, see if there's any comment on. I believe this is Coach Adam. So Coach Adam is right here. Adam is my first coach when I was in my junior college days. So that's like 20 years ago. So helped me out a lot in my beginning part of my journey in bowling. And now he's with NSRCC. So busy man on his handphone. Okay, so this lady here, I can't see her name. Looks like she has pretty decent fundamentals from that brief moment that I saw her. Okay, so this lady here. Okay, can I pause? Nope. Not the pointer one. Okay, this lady on the black, is it Cheryl or Sarah? I'm not sure. Okay, so this lady in the black shirt, she is here, right? Black shirt has what we call delayed timing upon release. So because I think, if I'm not wrong, I saw her. Yep, her feet comes to a sliding stop first. So at this exact moment, right, her feet stops. So her feet stops on the right before the foul line, and look at where the position of the ball is. The ball is still on the way to the downswing. It's still not at the lowest part of the downswing. It is still on the way to the downswing. So what this does, this delayed timing helps her to generate a lot of power and lift on the ball, because since her body is very stable, he has fully stopped moving. The left feet is very stably planted on the approach, right? And now she is free to use her arms to accelerate the ball upon release and then have a high follow through. So let's see if that's what she does. Yep, and she does that. So maybe we can reverse it a little bit. So that is what we call efficient delivery of power, right? So okay, so you can see that upon release, her follow through goes up way above her head, so she accelerates. She's able to accelerate the ball upon release, right? And then while accelerating, she relaxes her arm swing, and her hand ends up above her head. Yep, ends up above her head, reaches back, and then she just relaxes and let it drop. So that means she's able to deliver power on the shot and to generate ref rate and power on the shot, and that is helped by the fact that she has delayed timing upon release. So that is very good fundamentals. Good timing, that's what we call good timing. Yep. If I'm not wrong, I believe this lady here, also has delayed timing upon release based on what I saw. So it really helps to have delayed timing because it helps you to generate more power upon release. It gives you, generally the timing gives you a little bit of advantage here. Yep, so this lady that just bowled here, they're all wearing black, so I'm not sure of their names. But this lady that just bowled, yep, also has delayed timing, okay? Because her feet comes to a sliding stop here, right? So you can see her feet entering the slide early. So her feet comes to a stop right before the foul line. The ball has not yet reached the bottom of her swing. So this kind of timing also helps her to generate power as well. Then she can, yeah, okay, she doesn't release that well because when she releases, right, her fingers are not fully underneath the ball. They're not in the middle part of the ball. They are more of a, she has a broken wrist release. So because of that, she can't get a lot of leverage on the ball. So I wonder if you can see that if you try and rewind it. Yep, so you can see it here. When she's releasing, right, her fingers are actually in the top half of the ball rather than in the middle or the bottom half of the ball. So because her fingers are in the top half of the ball, even though she has really good delayed timing, she's still not able to get a lot of leverage on the ball. Because, I mean, obviously you want to like lift the ball, you are able to lift it better if your fingers are in the bottom half of the ball. So because of that, because she has a bit of what we call a broken wrist, that means her wrist actually relaxes instead of supporting the ball, so her wrist is not supporting the ball properly, so she isn't able to get her fingers in the bottom of the ball. Her ref rate suffers. So even though she has delayed timing, if you look at her release, she has just a few reps on the ball, but it doesn't go as fast as it should be for a bowler of with her timing, right? But she definitely has a lot of potential, but she just needs to support the ball a little bit better with her fingers while she is doing the placement and while she is in the middle of the swing. Okay, any okay, maybe let's go to the next tab. So I'm just skimming through, so just looking around in particular. Okay, so we have Coach Michael Lee here. So on this pair of lanes, Coach Michael Lee from Foundation Bowling. Very nice man. Even though I was not formally under him as a student, he still gave me bowling tips free of charge, and really nice man. One of the nicest coaches that I've ever had the opportunity to know and learn a little from. So really nice guy, great bowler as well, and a very experienced coach. So he's probably helping his student. I don't know if this is Lim Yu-xiang or is it Avery. So no idea. Oh, his bowler looks pretty good. So his bowler looks pretty good. It's spare shot, but as I can see, that means his bowler, right? I don't know. Is that? Yeah, I think that's Avery, because I think the BIS student that's bowling now is Lim Yu-xiang, right? The bowling science student. So I think Avery, when we take a look at that spare shot earlier, it has a pretty good timing. He flows pretty good. And maybe you can take a look at his next shot. Okay, so there's two-handers here that it's a little bit new to the game. I can see that they're not as experienced, so we can comment on that a little. Okay, so good. So this is, I believe, Lim Yu-xiang from Bowling Science, right? So I haven't booked with him last year, so maybe he's new to the program. He probably just entered this year. And you can see that he is not as smooth in his approach. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. His timing is decent, but the way when he plays his ball, right, he's swinging it around his hips. Okay, so here, okay, watch how he places the ball around his hips rather than underneath and through the hips. So what I mean by around the hips is this. So when you see his ball, right, he's swinging the ball, his arm swing is going this way. It's going sideways. He's swinging the ball sideways around the hips. Like if I were to draw it, he's going around the hips like this instead of going right under and up. So he's swinging like in a semicircle rather than like in a normal arm swing, right? Swinging around the body rather than underneath the body, or around the shoulder rather than underneath the shoulder, so to say. So hope I get my point across, right? Because most bowlers, as you will see, our arm swing should go. Oh no, this is not the right line to use. So I should use a straight line. So most bowlers, our swing should go right underneath the shoulder, right? But in this case, for Yu-xiang here, his swing is going around the body rather than around the shoulder rather than underneath the shoulder. So I think he has this habit built up because he isn't able to open up his hips wide enough. That means his hips, right, is still a little bit facing too squarely to the target. So because Yu-xiang looks like a bigger kid as well, he has wider hips. So not saying that bowlers with wide hips are not able to bowl, right? Definitely able to. I myself have wide hips as well. So this is a problem that I commonly struggle with. So bowlers with wider hips, we have to do a little bit more to try and get the ball to swing underneath our shoulder instead of around it, like what Yu-xiang is doing. So what he feels like his body is telling Yu-xiang, so Yu-xiang's body is telling him that, hey bro, your hips, my hips are in the way. I think if I swing my ball down, the ball will hit the right hip. So I have to try and swing around the body, okay? So that's what his body is subconsciously telling him, and this is what he's doing. So obviously this is really bad, because when you swing around the body like this, your swing goes in this way, right? So your swing goes like this around. So when you release, you also tend to pull to the left. So when you pull to the left, you tend to pull your shots. So your shots tend to miss to the left rather than hitting the target. So that's bad. So what Yu-xiang should do in the future to try and get around this problem, right? To try and have a straight downswing instead, is that his hips here, his hips should be a little bit, okay, I can't really point well using the tools I have here. Probably a straight line. So his hips should be a little bit more open. That means his right hip, right? You should position his right hip a little bit further back, his left hip a little bit further forward. So he's kind of like going 45, his hips will go a bit like 45 degrees towards the target instead. So what this does is that when your right hip moves a little bit further back for a right-hander, what it does is that it opens up more space for your body to swing the ball, because you need this empty space on the right side of your body in order to have the ball swing through. So when you don't have this space, when your hips are in the way, what your body will do instead is swing around your hips instead of underneath the hips, because regardless of what, the swing will happen. So by hook or by crook, your body will make the swing happen. So it's rather than swing underneath, you'll swing around the body, and you will result in a very bad habit. Okay, so that's his main biggest thing, right? So also because of that, if you take a look at his swings, so on his downswing is straight. So because he swung around the body, right? Because he swung around the body earlier, but now when his downswing is straight, in order to get his body to balance right beside the ball, right, what his feet tends to do is that his left feet has to do this sliding in motion. So his left feet has to slide from the left to the right. So he's drifting from the left side, from the left side to the right side. His feet is drifting from left to right. So when your feet drifts left to right, obviously it doesn't help your alignment, because originally when Yixiang was standing here, right, he was looking at the target like this, right? He's probably looking at the target like this. So now when he drifts left to right, his new target is actually from here. So his target line has changed. So when your target line changes in the middle of your approach, while in the middle of when you're walking your approach, it's very disruptive, and it doesn't help your consistency. Obviously it doesn't help your consistency, it doesn't help your accuracy, and you're gonna miss a lot more shots than you're gonna hit. So that's pretty bad. And also the way that his arm swings around his body, it means that he isn't able to utilize his momentum properly, because rather than having an arm swing that goes straight up and down, right, his arm swing is going left to right. So the momentum, that means the momentum isn't that efficient, because if you want an efficient arm swing, your arm swing should go straight down and then straight up and then straight down. So if you have any sideways movement in your arm swing, there's a lot of wasted energy by moving the ball left to right, which is not accurate and also not efficient. So you don't generate a good momentum on your ball, and your ball speed suffers. As we can see when he releases his shot here, you can see for a two-hander his ball is actually very slow, right? It's almost as slow as some of the ladies. So I mean, not trying to say that Yixiang is a bad bowler, but Yixiang is obviously a new bowler, and there's a lot he can improve on. His trailing leg is also, there's not enough knee bend here as well. His trailing leg is fully straight, there's no knee bend. So ideally you want to have a good knee bend, right, so that you can get low enough to the approach and be more stable. So no knee bend, certain bad habits here, also that his balance arm is not fully straight, so he isn't able to balance properly. One good thing though that I want to say about Yixiang's game is that his body tilt is good. So he has his body tilted to the right, which gives a lot of open space here for his ball to swing down. So you can see that when you tilt your body to the right side, like what Yixiang is doing, you have a lot of free space for your ball to come into the downswing and upon release. So that's a good thing. And another good thing that Yixiang has is his trailing feet is well positioned. So trailing feet here, not fully bent. Ideally, right, you'll be like this. You want to have a little bit more knee flex. That means your trailing leg knee should be a little bit more flexed, a little bit more relaxed. In this case, his is a little bit too straight. But still, the angle of his trailing feet, that means if you compare from the angle here, right, this angle from here to here, the angle is good. It is actually big enough. It's not overly large, but it is wide enough that it helps to keep his body stable at the foul line. So his trailing feet position is good. His upper body tilt is good. But other than that, he still needs a lot of work on his hip positioning, how he positions his hips upon his stance, and obviously he has to work on his swing, to have a swing that goes under his right shoulder instead of around his right shoulder. Okay, so that's Xiang. The BIS bowler that I see now, is it Cody Mock, right? Okay, Cody Mock has a little bit of a peculiar game. I've seen him bowling in Westwood, just training by himself. But his game, right? His game is good fundamentally, because he looks like he has decent timing, and upon release, let me see where his feet lands. Okay, so his feet land, so he has delayed timing upon release. Feet stops first, then ball is still in the middle of his in the midst of the downswing, which is blocked by Coach Michael's head. But we can generally see that his ball hasn't reached the bottom of the swing yet, right? So Cody is able to have a delayed timing upon release, which is generated by the fact that he has a delayed ball placement as well, because he places his ball, I believe, at the end of the second set. So that's good. His you can see that his fundamentals here is really good. Good balance arm, very straight, and upon release, his trailing leg is nice and flexed, and it also has a very good angle here. So a good angle, nice opening angle. So trailing leg is well positioned. His sliding knee here is also has a good decent knee bend. So overall fundamentals are good. The only thing is Cody, I believe, has what I call early weight transfer, because even while during the stance, right, while Cody is standing here, it looks like his upper body, right, is slight of leaning forward a little bit. So his upper body is slanted a little bit to the right, which is good, because you want your bowling shoulder to be lower than the non-bowling shoulder. So it's actually well positioned, and he tilts a little bit of his spine to the right to open a little bit more space on the right side of his body for the ball to swing. So this is good, but I don't know whether most people can see it, but he's actually leaning a little bit forward while he's standing here. So this is what we generally term as early weight transfer. That means since he's already leaning forward, right, he is not able to generate more momentum later on in the approach, because his body is already in a forward position. He cannot go even more forward, because if he goes a little bit more forward, he's going to fall into the lane, right? Because imagine if you're already leaning forward and you're going to lean even further forward upon the later parts of your approach, so your body is going to go down, and straight into the floor, right? So your body will resist that falling motion. It will try to pull back. It will try to maintain your current weight, where the position of a CG, right? You'll try to maintain where your current CG is positioned, and you'll not be able to accelerate further. So the principles of how we teach weight transfer is that generally when you stand on the approach, you should be standing upright. That means you should try to keep your center of gravity, right, centered right above your feet, rather than forward or backwards. The reason for this is that when you're moving after you have placed your ball into the swing, then you want to tilt your upper body forward. So you only want to tilt your upper body forward when you're moving into the swing. Yep, like he does here, right? So he moves his upper body forward as the ball swings up. So he tilts his upper body forward. So this is supposed to help you generate momentum moving forward. So this helps to generate the more momentum moving forward, and it helps to give your ball more ball speed. And obviously you want that the faster ball speed generally is better, right? Because more ball speed might generally equals to more power when it hits the pins. So this is why your body should be the center of gravity of your upper body should be centered above your feet when you're standing and holding the ball. That means when the beginning of your stance, and you should only move your upper body forward after you have moved the ball into the ball placement, so that you have this momentum of your body moving forward. The added momentum of your upper body moving forward will help you to generate more momentum and more ball speed. So Cody has a little bit of what we call a subtle early weight transfer. So his body is already a bit leaning forward while he's standing on the approach. which means that his upper body forward movement is not as efficient as it could have been, so that's limiting his potential a little bit. But generally, Cody seems to be a very good bowler, very good, decent fundamentals, but he has this little skip step here. 1, 2, yep, he has this very unique 4th to 5th skip step, which is very unique for a one-hander. But it's not commonly seen in a one-hander. And I believe maybe one of the reason that he's doing this skip step is maybe because his upper body is leaning too far forward. Because of his early weight transfer, right? His body tends to lean a little bit more forward than most one-handers should do. Because as a one-hander, you should limit your upper body lean, because if your upper body leans too far forward, like some of the two-handers, right, you're actually losing too much leverage on the ball. So it's very counterintuitive. Difficult for me to explain here because I don't have a good illustration. But for one-handers, your upper body lean shouldn't be too far forward. It's different for two-handers. Two-handers should have to lean a little bit more forward because of how they are doing their swing. Because if they don't lean too far forward, they don't have enough space on the right side of their body to swing both arms. And then it's because they have to swing both arms for a two-hander. That is why they have to lean far forward with their upper body. But one-handers actually don't need to do this. And when Cody here, when he leans too far forward, right, he tends to have to skip on his on his power step. So he's not utilizing his power step properly. So the power step is the 4th step before the slide. So if we can reverse a little bit, his power step should be this. Yeah. So his power step is actually blocked by Coach Michael here, but his power step is actually right here. It's blocked by Coach Michael, but he's not able to utilize his power step properly to push his upper body forward. And I think the reason he cannot do that is because his body is leaning too far forward. He has too early of a upper body weight transfer, and that's also limiting his potential, limiting his the amount of power he can generate with his power step here. So a little bit unique style, but Cody is still a good bowler because a lot of his fundamentals are very solid. And I think he strikes here, right? Good shot. Just now I was looking at Avery, right? Avery is a pretty good bowler from the glimpse I saw him earlier. Very nice. So Avery here, so I believe this is Avery. Avery here has a release that is very quick and very smooth. So let's look at Avery's movement, right? It looks very efficient and very smooth. Like, it looks efficient, there's no start-stop motion. Everything looks like one smooth motion. So this is where you know that the timing of his arms and the timing of his feet are pretty well matched. Okay, so Avery's ball, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so Avery has an unorthodox 4-step timing. So normally most of the bowlers nowadays, we will teach bowlers to do 5 steps. Like if you're a right-handed bowler, right, that means you move with your left feet first as the first step, and then you move with your right feet as the second step. But in this case, Avery is very unorthodox. He only takes 4 steps before releasing the ball. So because he takes 4 steps, he moves with his right feet first. Let's take a look. Let's see if I'm correct. Yep, so he moves directly with his right feet first. So he only takes 4 steps before release. So there's no pros and cons of the 4 and 5 step. Some people feel that the 5-step approach helps the bowler to be smoother. But as we can see from Avery here, right, even with a 4-step approach, he is very smooth. And he is a very good bowler. So what we'll consider early ball placement timing, because he's moving, so he's moving the ball with his first step. That means which is normally a 5-step approach second step, right? So normally we would say that if you're doing a 5-step approach, you move your ball at the end of the second step. But in this case, he is moving in his beginning of the second step, right? So he's really moving his ball while he's moving his so-called the second step, first step for him, but second step for most of us 5-steppers. So he has early ball placement timing, but look at his. Okay, that's so fast. I'm not able to catch the middle of his third step. Okay, so I believe this is like the middle of his third step. So the middle of his third step, his ball is kind of on the way up, so I would generally think that he is about traditional timing in the middle of his third step. So it's not too early, it is still okay. So traditional timing in the middle of his third step, and we will see whether he has delayed timing upon release. Okay, just a little bit delayed timing upon release. Okay, so his feet stops right here. So he still manages to get delayed timing upon release because his left feet stops moving and his ball hasn't reached the bottom of his swing yet. So like I mentioned, delayed timing upon release helps the bowler to generate power and ref rate. And he releases, and he has plenty of ref rate, right? Plenty of power, plenty of ball speed. Unfortunately, it doesn't get a strike there. But let's see it in motion again. Yeah. Okay, very slight. Let me catch it again. Yeah, so actually it's not really that delayed because his feet right just come into a full stop around here, and then his ball reaches the bottom already. So it's almost like traditional timing upon release. So not really delayed timing. Really hard to catch it. But I will still consider him about traditional timing upon release, but he's still able to generate quite significant power and good ball speed as well. So other than that, Avery's fundamentals really good. Yeah, right. So we take a look at his fundamentals, right? Yep. Take a look at his fundamentals here. Okay, yep. So balance arm really straight. Trailing leg, good flex, kicked upwards because he's trying to accelerate his arms, right? You can see that his arm swing, his follow through hand ends up above his head. So it ends up above his head because he needs to generate that power because he has a little bit of a traditional timing upon release. So in order to generate that power, he actually flicks his arm up, his hands up in a quick follow through to try and generate that power. He has good knee bend here, very good knee bend here. Then you can see that the position of his body, his bowling shoulder is lower than his non-bowling shoulder, right? So a lot of things that is doing very well in his Avery's physical game. So physically he is a very competent bowler, right? Very good bowler. If he applies for the national team, I can see him going into the national team without much of an issue because his physical game looks really solid, really good. Okay, we have a AGS bowler here. Is it Ng Xiaozi? Yeah, I believe this is Xiaozi, right? Okay, this name is really out of focus, right? Okay, I'll just call him. Okay, I'll just call him Xiaozi. Okay, so for Ng Xiaozi here, I caught his bowling a little bit earlier. He seems to be quite a new two-hander, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, you can see that he's still quite awkward in his approach. Like his movements are a little bit start-stop. It's not that smooth, a little bit awkward. So those are the signs that a bowler is quite new into the sport. His movements are not that competent. Their physical game is not that well defined yet. That their timing of their arm swing is not that in sync with the timing of their feet. So let's look at what are the issues, and if you are a similar bowler like Xiaozi here, what you can do to improve, right? So first and foremost is the way he positions, right? So I can see that his hips here, right, pretty square to the target, right? Very square to the target. So he's not opening up his hips. He's not opening up his right hip. So his right hip is going to be in the way of his down. Yeah, it is going to be in the way of his downswing. So this is the first thing that I noticed. Second is I noticed that his bowling shoulder, even though it's a little bit lower than the non-bowling shoulder, it can be a lot more. Like you should ideally, for a two-hander who's playing this deep of a line as where Xiaozi is standing, because Xiaozi is standing here, right? He's standing like almost in the yeah, it's actually out of the lane, right? He's in the gutter area. So if your left feet is standing in the gutter area, playing a pretty deep line, right? Trying to hit 4th arrow or maybe 5th arrow from the right. So you're trying to play such a deep line, you ideally, right, you need to have your bowling shoulder even lower. So you need to have bowling shoulder even lower, non-bowling shoulder even higher. The reason for doing that is that you need to open up the gap here. Because when you lower your bowling shoulder, you will have more of a gap here. So you need to open up this gap because your arm is going to swing this way. They're going to swing to the inside of your body because it needs to swing to the outside to release your ball later. So because since your arm needs to swing to the inside, you actually need to create a bigger gap here on the right side of your body. And in order to create a bigger gap, not only do you need to open up your hips more, that means you need to position your right hip further back. So things to do is that his right hip needs to position further back and his right shoulder needs to go a lot lower so that he can open up this space more on the right side of his body to play deeper lines. So that's for all you two-handers out there, right? And other than that, so his hips are in the way, so let's see how his swing does. Yep. So you can see that in order to have the ball go underneath his shoulder, which he does well, that means his swing is obviously better than Lim Yixiang, the bowler on the left. But what he does is that he has this awkward twist of his hips to the left. Okay, let's take a look at it again, right? Let's reverse it. So you can see at this moment that the ball comes down. Yep, he immediately twists his hips to the left and his upper body, right, twists to the right. Because when his hips go to the left, his hips go to the right. His upper body, his shoulders, right, goes to the right. So what this does is that his aiming point, right, where he was looking at becomes a lot more different. So let me draw where he's looking at right now. Right now his eyes are looking at this line, right? So his line is this to the target, right? Because his eyes are, his right eye is somewhere around here. Okay, maybe let me do that. His right eye is somewhere around here, right? Somewhere above here. So his target line right now is this to his, maybe his break point is around here, right? His target line is around here. But if we were to keep these target lines, so let's keep these target lines, right? And reverse it to where he was standing. So when he was standing, his target line, let me draw it in yellow, right? Or maybe let's draw it in blue. When he was standing, his target line was, his right eye is here. So his right eye is here. Right eye is here, right? His target line is actually from the ball, his right eye to the target, right? So you can see that the target line or the line to the break point is very different. The blue line is at a totally different angle as compared to the so-called the red line. So this is what happens when you have a sudden twist of your hips in the middle of your approach and you're forced to twist your shoulder in the middle of the approach. Because when your shoulder doesn't stay stable when you're doing your approach, right, when you're moving, obviously your upper your right eye doesn't stay stable as well. So the reference point of where you try and aim to your break point, right, and where you need to cross at the arrows becomes totally different. So when he was standing here, when Shaozi was standing on the approach, right, he was probably looking at the 4th arrow. But when he ends up in front of the foul line, he has to direct his ball to hit a totally different arrow in order to hit the same break point. Yep, then instead, so when he was standing at the approach, in the beginning of his approach, he was looking at the 4th arrow. But when he ends up at the foul line, he has to look at a totally different arrow in order to get his ball to the same break point that he was originally aiming at. So this is and obviously it crosses over, right? It overhooks because his line is totally different. So if he was able to play the line that I drew here in blue, right? So Shaozi's ball would go perfectly, skid through the middle part of the lane, hook and go into the pocket. But because his shoulders have to tilt in such a way that because he has to tilt his hips to the left and he has to tilt his shoulders to the right, so he has this big displacement of his head. So now his aiming point is now the red line. So if you're moving the red line, obviously you're having your ball traveling in an area where there's less oil, right? Because it's on the right side of the lane, most of the oil has been used up by other bowlers. So your ball is going to hook earlier. So obviously his ball overhooks, which we see here. So his ball overhooked, right? So here his ball, yep, overhooked. So his ball overhooked, because he was forced to play a totally different line by the way he tilts his body. And that is why tilting your upper body is not good, because it changes your aiming point, it changes where your ball travels through, and you're not going to be a consistent bowler. It's difficult to be consistent because wherever you were aiming at the beginning of your approach is totally different when you are at the end of your approach, when you are at the foul line. So obviously you can't hit your target consistently. So that is, I hope that illustrates well on why it is important to keep your upper body stable. So at this point, when Shaozhi tilts his upper body to the right, it's what we call GG, right? In gamer terms, it's good game. So he's not gonna hit his target once he does this. Yeah, once he does this, it's game over. GG, good game. And how we can restrict that? So how we can improve, right? If a bowler has this issue, rather than just talking about the problems, is that first and foremost, your hips needs to open up. So for Shaozhi here, his hips has to open up. So he has to tilt his hips like this way. So the end of this point, that means his right hip has to go way further, right? His left hip has to position a little bit more to forward. His right hip has to go further back so that he has a little bit more space on the right side of his body to swing, right? And I mentioned earlier, his right shoulder needs to go lower, left shoulder needs to go higher. Same thing, this is meant to help him create more space on the right side of his body. So when he has space on the right side of his body, then as he bowls moving forward, he should have to consciously tell himself to keep his shoulders stable. So rather than having his shoulder move to the right side here, he has to consciously tell himself to just move forward, to have his shoulder stable and move forward instead of moving to the right. So these are conscious things that a bowler with similar problem as Shaozhi here has to do in order to be a more consistent two-handed bowler. Yeah, once it moves to the right, it's a good game. So other than that, his swing is quite tense as well. Yeah, you can see here that on his backswing, right? So you can see here, while he's moving his ball towards the backswing, there's a lot of tension in his upper butt here. In the upper part of his biceps here, there's a lot of tension because you can see that his arms are not totally straight, right? His arms are still bent. So a lot of tension in his shoulders and in the upper part of his biceps. So because of that, his release, right, his ball speed is also pretty slow. So because he doesn't get a very free swing because his hips are in the way, he has to position his hips. His hips have to like move out of the way and so on, and it creates a lot of tension in his body system. So it's not relaxed, and because of that, when he releases, his ball speed is very slow. So you can see that his ball speed is very slow for a two-hander, right? Totally not ideal. For the amount of ref rate that a two-hander produce, we really need to get the ball speed up, because if we don't have the ball speed up, a lot of times the two-hander's ball is going to overhook because of we have too much ref rate as compared to the ball speed. So you have to find ways to generate the ball speed, and in order to get the ball speed, your body system, your physical game must be pretty good. You have to reduce the tension in your arms as well as in your upper body, as well as your timing has to be good as well. So it's actually not easy for a two-hander to generate ball speed. It's a lot harder for a two-hander to generate ball speed as compared to a one-hander. Because if the two-hander just tries to use muscle power, like one of the earlier bowlers that I reviewed earlier in this video, then they can get the ball speed with muscle power, but they cannot get any accuracy or consistency. So they are not a good bowler as well. So for two-hander to generate ball speed is actually very difficult. So that's the disadvantages of two-handed bowling, right? It's a lot harder to get to the top of the game as two-handed bowler. Okay, so all the four bowlers we've seen here, I spent quite a lot of time on this pair of lanes because the two-handed bowlers that we have here are really good. Really have a good example, right? Oh, and the rest of the video is over. So, okay, so the live stream has ended from Rifle Range Road, so I believe they're finished bowling their squad, and I believe I should end my video here. So, thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you learned something. If there's any questions, please feel free to comment below, and we shall see you guys next time.